Good morning, listeners. This is Linda from News in Bed with the headlines that you need to know before getting out of bed. Today is Wednesday, September 23rd, 2015. Here are the top stories. Ahead of a meeting between Chinese President Xi Jinping and American business leaders on Tuesday, U.S. Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson discussed how China, the world's second-largest economy, has run out of steam. Mr. Paulson believes the way to combat slowing growth in the Chinese economy is to expedite reforms and to rely more on domestic-led growth and domestic consumption, rather than the unsuccessful moves made earlier in the year by the Chinese government to ease monetary policy and devalue currency. Mr. Paulson suggests that cooperation and investments between China and the U.S. will help to kickstart economic activity as well as address growing concerns, such as cyber attacks launched from Chinese soil. Pope Francis arrived on U.S. soil at 4 o'clock Eastern Time on Tuesday afternoon. In an unprecedented welcome for a foreign dignitary, President Barack Obama, First Lady Michelle Obama, and their daughters, along with Vice President Joe Biden and his family, traveled to Joint Base Andrews outside of Washington, D.C. to greet the pontiff as his plane arrived from Cuba. This was the start to a 6-day visit by the Pope, who hopes to share his compassion for the poor and his willingness to tackle the world's most significant political, social, and economic controversies. Former First Lady Hillary Clinton's lead in the Democratic presidential primary race is growing. With a 42% approval rating in the polls, her numbers are expected to rise even higher, according to a new CNN ORC poll, as long as Vice President Joe Biden does not join the race. By comparison, polls show that voters currently favor Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders by 24%, Vice President Joe Biden by 22%, and former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley by 1%. On the heels of another strong debate performance, former Hewlett-Packard CEO Carly Fiorina has shot into second place in the Republican presidential race, while Donald Trump has lost some support. A survey by CNN ORC, conducted in the 3 days after the recent televised GOP debate watched by 23 million people, shows that Mr. Trump is still the party's front-runner with 24% support. This, however, is an 8% decrease from earlier in the month when a similar poll had him at 32%. Ms. Fiorina is at 15% support, an increase of 3%. Third in place is retired surgeon Ben Carson at 14%, a decline from 19% in the earlier poll. And those are our headlines for today. Remember to make it a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.